Good to go?
Good to go.
Awesome. Hey guys, it's Mr. Nick. This will be our Bible lesson for, or Sunday school lesson for July 5th this summer. I wanted to start off like I usually do with a little joke. I wanted to ask y'all, why couldn't Noah go fishing on the ark? Are y'all ready? Because he only had 2 worms. I don't know about y'all, I thought that one was really funny. I thought, because he brought animals in twos, that makes sense. He only had 2 worms and he couldn't be able to go fishing, which I'm sure he missed out on a lot of great fishing, you know. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today and taking time out of y'all's day to come learn about Jesus and come get to enjoy the lesson, and hope everybody's doing well. I've missed y'all this summer a lot. I've gotten to see a few of you here and there, and it's been really awesome to see you guys, but I just want to let y'all know I miss y'all a lot. And I love you guys, and I care about you guys. And if y'all ever need anything from me, feel free to reach out and ask me for anything, because I would really love to help y'all in any way I can, and you guys are awesome. We're going through a lesson in the book of Daniel today. We're going to be talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how they stood firm in their faith again when they're persecuted by King Nebuchadnezzar. But first, I've got a little game I want y'all to try. I won't be able to play it because I don't have the right tools right now, but I got a fun game for you guys, fun little experimenter game for y'all. So what I want y'all to do is, if you can, find a stack of index cards, which index cards are like, these cards are about this big. Usually they're white. One side is like plain white, one side has like lines on the back, and or you can just use pieces of paper, little scraps of paper. And I want you to try to build a tower, like a tall tower, out of index cards. You can stack them like this and layer them on top of each other. You can just lay them flat like this. You can try to stand them up. That's really hard. A little trick is just to fold the index card in the middle and then stand it up. It works a lot better. But what I want you guys to do with the index cards before you try to stand them up is write things on them that can be idols. That can be like TV or video games or outside time or friends or toys or something that could be an idol, or it can be anything. It can be like, yeah, just anything that you think could come before God sometimes. So I want y'all to write on the index card things that could be idols, and then try to build a tower out of those things. I'd love for y'all to give that a shot, but no pressure to. But the lesson kind of behind this game is that no idol can stand on its own. The index cards, no matter one way or another, will end up falling down and crumbling, and they won't be able to support each other. And this kind of shows that no idol that isn't God can support itself. Any idol without our attention to it is really just nothing. It's just dust and really nothing. And only God can stand on his own. Only God is firm, is a good foundation to stand on. And I haven't tried before, but I'm sure if you tried pushing God over or blowing him down, I think that you probably wouldn't be very successful. I think it'd take maybe even the strongest winds in the world couldn't blow God down, you know, or the strongest force, or you could probably push a mountain onto God and he wouldn't fall down. You know, he's really a firm foundation, and we can trust him and have faith in him because of that. So I hope that game is fun. So now we're going to get into the Bible story, which will be about, like I said, Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I know, crazy names, standing up to King Nebuchadnezzar, who was the ruler of Babylon at the time. And they stood firm in their faith, and they didn't give in to pressure from prosecution. So to give a little context in the story, so Babylon was kind of like the New York City of the world back then. It was a place where so many people lived, and was one of the biggest, I don't know how to call it city, but just biggest areas where people lived at the time. And King Nebuchadnezzar was the ruler of Babylon. He was like, if we had like a king of the United States, he was like the king, and this was a lot different than a president of the United States would look, but like he had tons of money, he had tons of servants, and he had everything he could possibly imagine. If iPhones were a thing back then, he'd probably have 1,000 iPhones. It'd be nuts, but he had just everything. And let's see. So prior to this story happening with Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, King Nebuchadnezzar built an impressive 10-story tower, which a story is about 10 feet. A story is a word for, or a term for like a building is made of stories. I know, kind of a funny thing, because usually stories like a book, but the tower, or the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar built was 90 feet tall, or 10 stories high, and he made this, and so the people of Babylon could worship him and praise him and bow down to him. And he even had like ceremonies where people would just worship him. They'd play instruments, they'd all bow, and he sometimes even had times of the day where they just bow to King Nebuchadnezzar because he was the ruler of Babylon. So our story today is in Daniel chapter 3, and it'll be from verses 8 to verse 29. And one more time I'll say that before I'll go a little slow. Daniel 3 verses 8 through 29. And I'll give y'all just a second to get there. I'm going to try to find it as well. I'm not too far off, but let's see if there's anything else to say before starting. But I think the story is really cool, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So I'm gonna start at verse 8 therefore at the time certain Chaldeans came forward and maliciously accused the Jews. They declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever." Like, King Nebuchadnezzar, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. Pretty much saying anytime that any instrument is played, people have to fall down and worship the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar built. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into a burning, fiery furnace. I don't know if y'all have ever been in a furnace before, but they're really hot. And then, therefore, there are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. So they brought these men before the king. So what was going on there is Nebuchadnezzar's servants told him that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were not falling down and worshiping him, and so that made King Nebuchadnezzar really mad, and he wanted to meet with them. Verse 14 says, Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, "It is true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up." He's asking them that, and then he says, "Now if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and any kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands?" So he kind of tests them right there. He says, like, "I brought you before me, and if you do not do these things, if you not fall down and worship me, I'll throw you in the furnace and you'll be burned to death." Something I kind of think of is, like, I work at 575 Pizza, and I work by the ovens. They're really hot. They're 575 degrees. And sometimes I get little burns on my arm because I bump into the oven accidentally, and it's really hot. I couldn't imagine how hot this furnace is. Goodness. But let's see. So verse 16 is where I'm picking up now. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you for this matter. If this be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve you your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. I think it's really neat to see the response. They say regardless of what happens, they'll still worship God, and they're not going to bow down to him. And they'd die if it meant that they worshipped God instead of Nebuchadnezzar. I think that shows a lot of faith, and we can look up to that as an example of how to have faith in God and how to stand against persecution like Nebuchadnezzar is doing to those three guys. So after they say that, Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury with the expression of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. Can you imagine how hot that is? Let's say the furnace is 500 degrees. Imagine being heated 7 times hotter than that. That would be 3,500 degrees. That'd be 3,500 degrees. That's so stinking hot. My goodness, I'm getting hot just thinking about it. So after he ordered this furnace to be heated 7 times, then he ordered some of his mighty men from his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. So then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were bound into their cloaks, their tunics and hats, and their other garments, and they were thrown into the fiery furnace. So that's just pretty much saying that they had to wear their clothes and their hats, and they tied them together so they couldn't move, I bet, and then they threw them into the furnace. But get this is really interesting. Because the king's order was urgent and the furnace was overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So the people that threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire died from throwing them in. It was so hot it burned them and burned them alive while they were throwing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire. That's so hot. Let's see. And then those 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the fiery furnace. So it sounds like they hadn't been burned yet, which is really interesting, and we'll see what's kind of going on right here. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "O true king." He answered and said, they said, "True, O king." They were just acknowledging, yes, we did throw 3 men into the fire. And then Nebuchadnezzar says, "But I see 4 men unbound walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods." This part's really cool. To go over it again, it says that there are 3 men walking around in the fire, and there's a fourth, and they're just walking around in the midst of the fire. And Nebuchadnezzar said the 4th looks like the son of the gods. And so what's going on here, which is awesome, is Jesus is with them in the fire, and he's protecting them from the flames. And that is really powerful. That shows how powerful God is, that he can protect them from the flames of the fire, and he can send his son to be with them. Imagine what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are thinking right now. Jesus is with them in the fire. They're probably not only thinking, why are we not burning alive? But they're probably thinking, this is incredible. This is the Son of God. So then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace, and he declared, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here." That's pretty impactful. Nebuchadnezzar has seen that God sent his son to protect Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And let's see how he kind of responds to this. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the fire, and the satraps, the prefects, the governors, and the king's counselors, who were just like Nebuchadnezzar's men who worked for him. They're kind of if Nebuchadnezzar's king, these guys are all right above the working class, I'd say. So they're kind of like his guys that work directly for him. They gathered together and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. Their hair on their heads was not singed. Their hair wasn't burned. Their cloaks were not harmed. They didn't have burned clothes, and they didn't smell of fire, and no smell of fire had come upon them. They didn't even smell like they had been in a fire. I'm sure being around a fire of 3,500 degrees, you'd smell something being burned for sure. If you've ever been around a campfire, you can smell wood burning, or if you've been around a stove and something accidentally falls onto the stove, you can smell that burning. Or if you've seen anything be on fire, you know something smells when something's on fire. And to hear that they don't even smell like fire, that's insane. Then Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and set aside the king's command and yielded their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God." So he's saying, he's in a way acknowledging that God is powerful, and is just in awe that God protected his servants because they wouldn't serve King Nebuchadnezzar. And to hear that that's how King Nebuchadnezzar responds to that is just crazy. Like, he's really impacted by this, and I think that's awesome. So after he sees this and his heart is changed, he says, "Therefore I make a decree, any people, nation, language that speaks anything against God, the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, shall be torn limb from." That part's kind of too much. They will be killed for all, just because that description can be kind of a lot. And he kind of finishes by saying, "For there is no other God who is able to rescue in this way." Gosh, that's such a powerful story to get to see that even the king of Babylon, who had everything he could ever imagine in the world and had millions of people worshiping him, could see that God is real and how powerful God is, and how his heart changed so quickly by seeing God protect his people. And even enough to say, like, anybody who doesn't respect this God will be killed. That just shows how powerful God is, that he can have such a large impact on a big group of people like that. But also got to give it to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego for having strong faith and for standing firm when they're being prosecuted. Like, their lives are on the line, and they still serve God and were faithful to him. But something that this story shows, I think, is really cool, is like, God is more powerful than even the greatest idols. Nebuchadnezzar had to do so much for his people to worship him, but all God had to do was save those three guys to become more, to be seen in the eyes of the people of Babylon as being more powerful. And God is more powerful than the greatest idols. A 90-foot statue could not be more powerful than God. You could have a 300-foot statue that spans over miles and miles, and it wouldn't be as powerful as God is, and wouldn't be as great as he is. So that story, maybe want to give a verse to y'all, a memory verse for the week or for life. I think this is a really good one. It's really encouraging. And it says, "Be on your guard, stand firm in your faith, and be people of courage, be strong." And it's in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13. So I'll say that again just so y'all can wrap around it. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13. It says, "Be on your guard, stand firm in your faith, and be people of courage, be strong." I think it's a great verse because it kind of tells us, like, how can we, like, tells us to be aware, like, be on our guard, make sure we're being wise, and being aware of, like, okay, how am I getting, like, or what's going on here? Am I being persecuted? How can I show that I'm faithful to God, and how can I stand firm in faith? Kind of encourage us to be aware. And then it says, encourage us to stand firm in our faith. I think that sometimes life can be really tempting to say, I don't know if I feel scared of this thing. It's making me feel like I don't necessarily want to stand up for my faith, but the God of the universe tells us to stand firm in our faith. I think, like, knowing he's more powerful than everything in the world, having that encouragement from him, I know makes me feel like, okay, I can stand firm in my faith, and I can be courageous. I know I can do those things because God is more powerful than what the opposition is. And be strong. We can thank God for our strength. I really thank God for the strength that he gives us as Christians to stand strong and have faith in him. But I think that verse is awesome. I'd love for y'all to wrap around that if y'all can, and memorize that, and just live by that if y'all want to. So I got two more things for y'all. The next one, I think it's kind of a neat thing to do. It's kind of a challenge, but it's real simple, real easy, and it's kind of what I kind of like to do. Kind of how do I get into this kind of thinking, this mindset, is I sit down in a comfortable chair and just kind of have nothing going on, maybe no noise, no TV, or just a place where I can focus on what I'm thinking about. And I think about what idols do I have in my life? What things am I putting above God right now? And I just want to challenge or encourage y'all to just take a look at, like, sit down, take it easy, and then think about what things am I putting above God in my life. And I don't want to challenge y'all to do that to make anybody feel bad about things that could be ahead of God, but just maybe to open the door for, like, okay, I can pray to God and ask for guidance and courage and strength to put him first above everything else. And that's what I'd want to do, and that's what I do this for. I take a look at what I put above God, and I say, Lord, just help me to put you above these things, and help me to kind of center back on you, because life is distracting, and there's so many cool things in life that we get to do that sometimes just by accident things become a priority to God, which is okay. And yeah, just I'd love for y'all to do that. Just take a little reflective look on what we kind of do, and just know that I want to be encouraging you guys to not to shame you guys with saying that don't put idols above God, but just encourage you guys to know that God is the thing that will always meet our needs, and will always be that is a sufficient idol. He will always provide, and we can stand on him, and he can be our foundation. So that's really all I have. I want to close real quick by saying that God is so strong. God is stronger than anything in the world. Sometimes it may not feel like that. Sometimes it takes days, months, long times to see how strong God is, but God is stronger than any obstacle we'll face, any challenge, any frustration. I just want y'all to know that, and I want you to know he cares for you, and he loves you guys so much, and he exists and lives to help you guys in your faith, and he's strong. He's stronger than anything that could ever happen on earth. I want to encourage y'all to stand firm in your faith. I have a lot of faith in you guys. I know y'all are capable of standing firm when the time comes, and I care about y'all, and I understand that y'all are capable of standing firm when the time comes. And I just want to close real quick by praying us out, and then I'll let y'all get to y'all Sunday. Hope it's a good one. Dear Father, thanks for bringing us all here together, and thanks for bringing kids here to watch these videos, Lord, and just thank you for the time we still get to spend together, even though things are weird right now, and we're still not back into church, and hadn't been in school in months, and just kind of an unusual year, Lord, and just thanks for still giving us time to connect with each other, even when life is funny, Lord. Thank you for the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Lord. It's such a great example of how standing firm in our faith is so glorifying to you, and how powerful you are. And you're more powerful than even the hottest furnaces in the world, Lord, and you're more powerful than even the rulers of any nation. And you care about us, and you give us strength to stand firm in our faith when we need it, Lord. And just thank you for showing us how powerful you are, and help us to just walk away from this story knowing you're powerful, and just help us to wrap onto that, Lord. Just want to pray for all these kids, Lord. I want to pray that they just see you in their lives, and through whatever you find that to be the way you find best to do that, Lord. I just thank you for loving these kids, and just help them to know that they are loved by you, and help them to feel like they're loved by you, and help them to know that they're cared for by the people around them, Lord. And I just pray that you give them caring people around them, and loving people around them, and just help them to feel encouraged and strengthened, and make them into good people, Lord. Thank you so much for all these awesome kids. just been wonderful to work with, Lord, and just give us strength to stand firm in our faith. And thank you for your love, forgiveness, and grace. In your name I pray. Amen. All right. Well, hope y'all had a great 4th of July. This will be coming out after the 4th of July. And hope y'all got to shoot off lots of fireworks, eat lots of hot dogs and hamburgers, and just got to have a grand old time. And I want y'all to know I'm looking forward to seeing y'all soon. I really love y'all and care about y'all. And yeah, have a great week for me, and have a great day. And let me know if y'all need anything from me. Bye, y'all.